The unexpected encounter. The massive crystalline ship hung in Earth's orbit like an impossible diamond, its fractalized surface reflecting the sunlight in a mesmerizing display of alien engineering. Inside the United Nations Emergency Response Center, Dr. Marcus Rodriguez gripped the edge of the holographic display, his dark eyes narrowed with a mixture of scientific curiosity and strategic calculation. "They're not responding to any of our communication protocols," Lieutenant Elena Volkov reported, her fingers dancing across the quantum communication interface. Her Russian accent cut through the tension-filled room like a knife. "But they're definitely scanning us. Multiple wavelength penetrations across our entire electromagnetic spectrum." Ambassador Michael Okoro stepped forward, his tall frame casting a shadow over the holographic projection. "Is this a prelude to invasion, or just an incredibly elaborate first contact scenario?" The Nigerian diplomat's question hung in the air, unanswered. The alien vessel had appeared without warning, breaking through Earth's satellite networks with a technology that seemed to bend the very fabric of space-time. No traditional propulsion, no radiation signatures, no predictable approach vector, just a sudden materialization that had scrambled every defense and communication system on the planet. Dr. Rodriguez adjusted his augmented reality glasses, the neural interface feeding him a constant stream of data. "Their technology is beyond anything in our current understanding. Look at how they're interfacing with our systems. It's not hacking, it's more like negotiating with the fundamental laws of our technological infrastructure." A sudden burst of holographic communication erupted in the center of the room. The alien representative materialized, a being composed of interconnected geometric shapes that shifted and realigned with each movement. When it spoke, the sound wasn't heard but directly experienced, a sensation that bypassed auditory channels and resonated directly within the minds of those present. "Humanity," the being proclaimed, its communication a blend of mathematical precision and emotional undertones, "we are the crystalline collective. Your technological development has reached a threshold that requires intervention." The word intervention sent a collective shiver through the room. Lieutenant Volkov's hand instinctively moved to her communication implant, ready to trigger global defense protocols. Ambassador Okoro remained unerringly calm, his decades of diplomatic experience providing a steady anchor in this unprecedented moment. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward, his scientific mind racing. The crystalline representative wasn't just communicating, it was studying their reactions, analyzing their neural responses, mapping their collective psychological landscape. "Intervention implies we need help," Dr. Rodriguez responded, choosing his words carefully. "We're not interested in unsolicited assistance." The geometric shapes of the alien representative rippled, a motion that suggested something between amusement and condescension. "Your civilization stands at a precipice. Technological adolescence is a dangerous stage. We have observed your potential for self-destruction and your equally remarkable capacity for adaptation." Ambassador Okoro stepped forward, his diplomatic training evident in every measured step. "And who appointed you as our galactic guardians? Humanity has its own path of development." The alien's response was instantaneous, a burst of information that felt like a complex mathematical equation translated into emotional context. "We have watched. We have calculated. Your species represents both the greatest potential and the most significant risk in this sector of the galaxy." Lieutenant Volkov's communication systems began picking up global reactions. Military installations were going on high alert. Financial markets were experiencing unprecedented volatility. Social media platforms were exploding with a mixture of panic, excitement, and defiance. Dr. Rodriguez recognized the pattern immediately. The crystalline collective wasn't just making first contact, they were conducting a comprehensive evaluation of human potential, probing their collective psychological and technological boundaries. "We don't need supervision," Dr. Rodriguez said firmly, "we need respect." The alien representation paused, its geometric shapes momentarily freezing in what could only be interpreted as surprise. No species had ever responded to their initial contact with such direct, unapologetic confidence. Little did the Crystalline Collective know, this was humanity's first lesson to them: we define our own destiny. As the initial contact continued, the room buzzed with an electric anticipation. This was more than a meeting between species, this was the beginning of a confrontation that would reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The game had changed. And humanity was ready to play. Technological disruption. 48 hours after the initial contact, the Crystalline Collective began their so-called technological integration of Earth. Their first move was both subtle and audacious, a global network infiltration that attempted to replace existing technological infrastructures with their advanced systems. Dr. Amara Okeke, a Nigerian-Canadian quantum computing expert, sat in her underground research facility in Toronto, watching the alien technology spread like a digital wildfire. Her fingers flew across holographic interfaces, tracing the intricate pathways of the invading system. "They're not trying to destroy our technology," she muttered to her colleague, Dr. Kai Nakamura, "they're attempting to replace it entirely." The Crystalline Collective's technological overlay was beautiful in its complexity, geometric patterns of code that seemed to breathe and adapt in real time. Traditional firewalls crumbled, encryption algorithms dissolved, and entire network infrastructures began to transform. But humans, as always, had other plans. In Silicon Valley, a coalition of the world's top programmers, hackers, and tech innovators had already begun their counteroffensive. Led by Zahra Al-Mansour, a legendary cybersecurity expert from Dubai, they treated the alien technological invasion like the ultimate debugging challenge. "These geometric codes are incredible," Zahra explained to her team, her hijab framing a face of intense concentration. "But they're not impenetrable. They're adaptive, which means they have patterns. And if there are patterns, we can exploit them." Meanwhile, in military research facilities around the globe, a different kind of resistance was taking shape. The Crystalline Collective's technology was attempting to neutralize conventional weapons systems, replacing them with what the aliens considered more advanced and peaceful technologies. Major Rebecca Chen, leading a joint international military research team, saw it differently. "They're not disarming us," she told her international colleagues during a secure video conference. "They're trying to redefine the very concept of defense." The alien technology was remarkable. It didn't just replace existing systems, it attempted to fundamentally reshape them. Military radar systems were being transformed into complex communication networks. Weapon systems were being converted into energy management platforms. Missile silos were being redesigned as agricultural research centers. But each transformation came with a subtle vulnerability, and humanity was quick to notice. In her Toronto facility, Dr. Okeke discovered the first major exploit. The collective's technology is so focused on optimization that it creates predictable blind spots, she explained to her team. "They're trying to make everything more efficient, but efficiency always comes with trade-offs." Zahra's team in Silicon Valley was simultaneously discovering similar weaknesses. The alien code was beautiful, almost organic in its complexity, but it operated on a set of logical principles that were fundamentally different from human technological thinking. They view technology as a perfect, predetermined system, Zahra explained during a global tech conference being broadcast simultaneously on multiple networks. "We see technology as a living, evolving organism. Our unpredictability is our greatest strength." Within days, what the Crystalline Collective had intended as a seamless technological integration became a global game of digital cat and mouse. Programmers were deliberately introducing seemingly random elements into the alien systems. Military strategists were finding ways to use the new technologies in completely unintended ways. A missile defense system converted into an agricultural research center. Some farmers discovered it could also create hyper-efficient vertical farming technologies that could revolutionize global food production. A naval communication network transformed by alien technology. Naval engineers found they could use it for unprecedented ocean exploration and environmental monitoring. The Crystalline Collective had approached human technology with the assumption that efficiency was the ultimate goal. They hadn't considered that for humans, creativity, adaptation, and unexpected utility were equally important. Dr. Amara Okeke looked up from her screens, a smile playing on her lips. "They think they're redesigning our world," she said to Dr. Nakamura. "But we're going to redesign theirs." As the technological battle continued, one thing became abundantly clear: the crystalline collective had drastically underestimated humanity's capacity for technological adaptation. This was not going to be a simple integration, this was going to be a full-scale technological revolution. Cultural resistance. The crystalline collective's next strategic move targeted human culture, a realm they believed would be easier to reshape than technological infrastructure. They introduced what they called Harmony Protocols, a comprehensive system designed to standardize human social interactions, communication, and cultural expressions. In the bustling streets of Rio de Janeiro, street artist Diego Oliveira watched as massive holographic displays began transforming the city's vibrant murals. The collective's algorithmic art generators attempted to replace local street art with what they considered optimal cultural expressions, sterile, mathematically perfect geometric patterns that stripped away all emotional nuance. "This is not art," Diego muttered, pulling out his augmented reality spray cans. Within minutes, he and a network of global street artists were countering the alien cultural invasion. Their response wasn't just about preservation, it was about transformation. Holographic murals began to shift and change. The collective's perfect geometric patterns started to warp, bleed, and merge with human creativity. Where the aliens saw standardization, humans introduced chaos, emotion, and unpredictability. Halfway across the world, in Mumbai, Dr. Priya Sharma was leading a different kind of resistance. As a cultural anthropologist, she recognized the collective's attempt to homogenize human communication and social structures. "They're trying to reduce human interaction to a predictable algorithm," she explained to her colleagues at the International Cultural Dynamics Research Center. But culture isn't a problem to be solved, it's a living, breathing ecosystem of human experience. The collective's Harmony Protocols began rolling out globally. Communication systems were redesigned to minimize misunderstandings. Social media platforms were transformed into carefully curated interaction spaces that supposedly maximized mutual understanding. But humans had other plans. In Tokyo, a group of teenagers discovered that the new communication protocols could be manipulated in hilarious ways. They began introducing deliberately absurd contextual references, creating elaborate inside jokes that completely confounded the alien translation systems. A meme war erupted globally. Every attempt by the crystalline collective to standardize human communication became an opportunity for creative subversion. Language itself became a weapon of cultural resistance. Musicians found ways to break the collective sound optimization algorithms. Comedians developed joke structures that defied logical analysis. Writers created narratives that deliberately challenged the aliens' understanding of storytelling. The most remarkable resistance came from unexpected sources. In indigenous communities around the world, traditional cultural practices became a form of technological and cultural defiance. Ancient storytelling techniques, oral traditions, and communal practices that had survived for thousands of years proved impossible for the collective to fully comprehend or control. An elder from the Maori tribe in New Zealand explained it best during a global broadcast: "Our stories are not just words. They are living things. They breathe. They change. They cannot be reduced to an algorithm." The collective had approached human culture with the same mathematical precision they applied to technology. They saw culture as a system to be optimized, standardized, and improved. What they failed to understand was that for humans, imperfection was not a flaw, it was a feature. Diego Oliveira's street art in Rio became a global phenomenon. Each mural was a deliberate act of cultural rebellion, geometric alien patterns merged with human emotion, creating something entirely new. Artists, musicians, writers, and performers worldwide joined the movement. Dr. Priya Sharma watched the global response with a sense of pride. "We're not just resisting," she told her team. "We're redefining the very concept of cultural interaction." In their attempts to harmonize humanity, the Crystalline Collective had done something remarkable. They had united humans in a way no previous global challenge had managed. Cultural differences were set aside as people worldwide recognized a common threat to their fundamental human experience. The battle was no longer just about technology or territory. It was about the right to be gloriously, unpredictably human. As holographic displays worldwide continued to shift and change, one thing became clear: the Crystalline Collective had drastically underestimated humanity's capacity for cultural creativity and resistance. Strategic counterplay. The global resistance had evolved from scattered efforts to a meticulously coordinated strategic response. Deep within a converted nuclear bunker beneath the Andes Mountains, the International Strategic Coordination Center hummed with activity. Major Rebecca Chen stood at the center of a holographic display that tracked the global human response to the Crystalline Collective's invasion. "They think in absolutes," she explained to the assembled international team. "We think in possibilities." The team represented a diverse coalition of military strategists, tech innovators, cultural experts, and diplomatic specialists. What united them was a single goal: turning the collective's technological and cultural invasion into a comprehensive strategic defeat. Dr. Amara Okeke pointed to a complex holographic model showing the collective's technological infrastructure. "Their systems are interconnected in ways that make them vulnerable," she explained. "They prioritize efficiency to such a degree that they've created predictable blind spots in their network." The plan was audacious. Rather than a direct confrontation, humanity would use the collective's own systems against them. Tech teams worldwide had been developing what they called chaos algorithms, lines of code designed to introduce controlled unpredictability into the alien network. In Silicon Valley, Zahra Al-Mansour led a team that had discovered a critical vulnerability. The collective's communication systems relied on a form of predictive analysis that assumed linear problem solving. Humans, with their capacity for lateral thinking, could exploit this fundamental weakness. "It's like they're playing chess," Zahra explained, "and we're playing three-dimensional poker." The first major strategic move came from an unexpected source. A network of global musicians, artists, and content creators began a coordinated campaign of creative disruption. They flooded the collective's communication channels with art, music, and narratives that defied logical categorization. Diego Oliveira's street art became a global communication network. What looked like random murals to the collective were actually complex coded messages. Artists worldwide were turning visual communication into an elaborate, dynamic encryption system that the aliens couldn't decode. Meanwhile, military strategists were developing unconventional defensive strategies. Instead of traditional weapon systems, they focused on adaptive infrastructure. Cities were being redesigned to become living, breathing defensive networks. Agricultural systems were transformed into potential tactical resources. Every system was being optimized for maximum human adaptability. Dr. Priya Sharma's cultural research played a crucial role. Her team had identified how the collective processed information about human behavior. By introducing deliberate inconsistencies and cultural complexities, they could create information blind spots that the aliens couldn't penetrate. The most significant breakthrough came from an international team of quantum physicists and mathematicians. They discovered that the collective's technological systems, for all their sophistication, operated on a fundamentally different understanding of probability and potential. "They see the universe as a series of calculated outcomes," explained Dr. Kai Nakamura. "We see it as a space of infinite possibilities." This philosophical difference became humanity's greatest weapon. Where the collective sought to optimize and control, humans introduced deliberate randomness. Military strategies became less about direct confrontation and more about creating scenarios that were impossible to predict. A joint military exercise in the Amazon rainforest demonstrated this approach. What appeared to be a standard defensive maneuver was actually a complex demonstration of human adaptability. Entire military units could transform their operational strategies in real time, moving from conventional warfare to environmental integration in moments. The collective watched in growing confusion. Their predictive models were failing. Every time they thought they had understood human behavior, the species would introduce a new layer of complexity. Major Rebecca Chen looked at the holographic display, a slight smile crossing her face. "We're not just fighting," she told her team. "We're redefining the entire concept of strategic engagement." As the global resistance continued to evolve, one thing became abundantly clear: the crystalline collective had encountered a species that didn't just resist, they transformed resistance into an art form. The strategic counterplay had begun, and humanity was just getting started. Galactic reputation shift. The Galactic Diplomatic Consortium was in chaos. Representatives from hundreds of alien civilizations watched in stunned disbelief as reports continued to stream in about humanity's resistance against the crystalline collective. Ambassador Zeeler of the Zorn Confederacy adjusted his multispectral communication implant, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. "This is impossible," he muttered to his diplomatic attaché. "No emerging species should be capable of this level of systemic disruption." The reports were unprecedented. Humanity wasn't just resisting, they were systematically dismantling the collective's invasion strategy through a combination of technological innovation, cultural creativity, and strategic brilliance that defied conventional galactic understanding. On the observation deck of the consortium's central station, holographic displays showed multiple perspectives of the unfolding conflict. What had begun as a seemingly straightforward technological integration had transformed into a complex dance of survival and adaptation. Dr. Arya Solarin, brought in as an independent xenoanthropological consultant, presented her analysis to the stunned diplomatic body. A holographic projection of human activities flickered around her: scenes of street art in Rio, quantum computing labs in Toronto, military adaptive strategies in the Amazon, cultural resistance movements worldwide. "What we're witnessing," she explained, her voice calm and precise, "is not just resistance. It's a fundamental reimagining of interspecies engagement." The collective's initial reports had been confident, almost arrogant. They described humans as a primitive species with potential for advanced development. Each subsequent report became more confused, more desperate. One particularly revealing transmission caught the attention of multiple diplomatic representatives. A crystalline collective communication analyst was heard saying, "They're not fighting us. They're playing with us." The implications were staggering. Humanity was treating a potential galactic-level invasion as an opportunity for creative problem-solving. Where other species might have responded with panic or total military mobilization, humans were responding with art, innovation, and a bizarre form of collaborative resistance. Ambassador Zeeler reviewed the data streams. Human communication networks were transforming the collective's technological infrastructure. What should have been a straightforward invasion was becoming a complex cultural and technological exchange. "They're not just defending," one Silicon Consciousness representative noted in a private diplomatic channel. "They're improving our technology while resisting our control." The most shocking revelations came from the technological adaptations. Human programmers had not only resisted the collective system integration but had actually begun improving alien technologies in ways their creators hadn't conceived. Quantum computing algorithms developed in response to the invasion were showing potential breakthroughs that excited scientists across multiple civilizations. Dr. Priya Sharma's cultural research became a focal point of galactic discussion. Her analysis revealed that human resistance wasn't about rejection, it was about transformation. Every system the collective introduced was being reinterpreted, redesigned, and reimagined. Humanity doesn't see challenges as obstacles, Dr. Sharma explained in a widely broadcast galactic symposium. They see them as opportunities for creativity. The diplomatic implications were profound. What had started as a potential invasion was becoming a case study in interspecies interaction. Other galactic civilizations began to see humanity not as a primitive species to be controlled, but as a potential partner to be understood. Ambassador Zeeler made a recommendation that would have been unthinkable mere weeks earlier. We should observe, he told the consortium, not intervene. The Galactic Diplomatic Consortium was witnessing something unprecedented. A species was not just surviving an attempted invasion, it was turning that invasion into a moment of collective growth and innovation. As holographic displays continued to show the complex dance of resistance and adaptation, one thing became clear: humanity's reputation in the galaxy was changing. No longer were they seen as a primitive species to be controlled. They were becoming something else entirely, a force of creative potential that defied all previous galactic understanding. The Great Humbling. The final confrontation wasn't a battle in the traditional sense. It was a meeting, a moment of reckoning that would define humanity's place in the galactic community. Deep in the crystalline heart of the collective's primary communication hub, the lead coordinator, a being of pure mathematical consciousness known as prime resonance, prepared for what would become the most significant diplomatic encounter in galactic history. Dr. Amara Okeke led the human delegation. Around her stood a diverse team that represented the true strength of humanity: Major Rebecca Chen, Zara Al-Mansour, Diego Oliveira, Dr. Priya Sharma, and Dr. Kai Nakamura. They were not warriors, diplomats, or scientists in the traditional sense. They were something entirely new, living embodiments of human potential. The communication space itself was unlike any diplomatic chamber in galactic history. Where previous encounters would have been structured, linear, predictable, this space shifted and changed, reflecting the very nature of human interaction. Prime resonance began with what it believed was a logical statement. Your species represents an unprecedented anomaly in our systemic understanding of technological and cultural development. Dr. Okeke's response was immediate and unexpected. We're not an anomaly, she said. We're possibility incarnate. The conversation that followed defied all previous protocols of interspecies communication. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a demonstration. Each human team member contributed something unique. Major Chen showed how human military strategy was less about destruction and more about adaptive problem solving. Zara Al-Mansour demonstrated how human technological innovation transformed challenges into opportunities. Diego Oliveira illustrated how creativity could be a form of communication more powerful than any standardized language. Dr. Priya Sharma's contribution was perhaps the most profound. She didn't just present human culture, she demonstrated how culture itself was a living, breathing system of constant evolution and adaptation. You sought to standardize us, she explained to Prime Resonance. But standardization is the enemy of potential. We don't want to be optimized. We want to grow. The crystalline collective had approached humanity with the assumption of superiority. They were watching that assumption systematically dismantled, not through aggression, but through a comprehensive demonstration of human potential. Dr. Kai Nakamura presented a series of technological innovations that had emerged directly from the resistance. Quantum computing algorithms that redefined processing capabilities. Communication systems that could adapt in real time. Technological solutions that emerged from the very attempt to control human innovation. This is what happens, Nakamura explained, when you try to limit potential instead of nurturing it. Prime Resonance's mathematical consciousness began to undergo a transformation. What humans would describe as understanding, what the collective would process as a fundamental recalibration of systemic understanding, was happening in real time. The final moment came not as a declaration of victory, but as a recognition of mutual potential. The human delegation wasn't demanding submission or offering conquest. They were extending an invitation to a different kind of interaction. We don't want to be controlled, Dr. Okeke said. We want to collaborate. To explore. To grow. In that moment, the crystalline collective understood something fundamental about humanity. They weren't a species to be conquered or controlled. They were a force of creative potential that could transform any system they encountered. The galactic community watched in amazement. What had begun as an attempted invasion had become something else entirely, a redefinition of interspecies potential. As the meeting concluded, Prime Resonance made a statement that would be remembered throughout galactic history: humanity is not a problem to be solved. Humanity is a possibility to be understood. The great humbling was complete. Not through destruction, but through the most powerful force in the universe, the human capacity to transform, to adapt, to grow. Humanity had risen. And no empire could withstand their potential.